What's going on, you guys? We got the 2010 Audi S6, and you can pick one of these up for around $25,000. But should you? Let's tear this car up and find out. This part makes me just want to cry. Under this hood, you get a 5.2 liter V10 straight out of the Lamborghini Gallardo. And if you know Gallardos, then you know you either get a 5.0 liter or a 5.2, and this has the 5.2. Paired with this engine is a 6-speed automatic transmission, and more on that in a second. So this V10 engine produces 435 horsepower and 398 pound-feet of torque, and it revs up to 7,000 RPM. And if you know the 5.2 liter Lamborghini, you would say, those don't sound the same. Yes, it's a little bit different from the Lamborghini, but still, when you listen to this exhaust, you hear the Lambo in this car. Now, this car weighs around 4,300 pounds, and yes, it makes a little less horsepower than the Gallardo. Therefore, the internet claims the 0 to 60 is 4.7 seconds, and the quarter mile is 13.3 seconds. But let's see what this will actually do in normal conditions on the 0 to 60.
Ready? Go.
So, I mean, this car is not that fast, but it's just about the experience. As for acceleration, I'm gonna grade this as a C, and so did the owner. Now, this car has massive 6-piston brakes in the front and 4-piston brakes in the back, but remember, this car weighs 4,300 pounds. That's about as much as the Dodge Challenger Scat Pack. So let's stop from 60 miles an hour and see how well this car does.
Ready? Go.
I will say, at first, when you just touch the brakes a little bit, it kind of scares you, but when you really get on the brakes, I think it does pretty good. You can hit high speeds in this car, so you have to have some braking power, but it's just not exceptional. I'm gonna give it a C, and the owner gave the braking power a D. All right, again, it's a heavy car, it's a long car too, but it does have all-wheel drive. Let's really push this in the corners and see how it does. To me, this car feels very similar to the Scat Pack we reviewed, and I'm gonna have to give this a D for cornering, and the owner gave it a C. Now, this is a crucial category for the S6. This car should be appealing to anyone who is a car person because you never, ever, ever see these. It's so unique, and I bet you they will never make a car like this ever again, especially because things are transitioning to being electric. Putting a V10, especially a Lamborghini V10 engine, inside of a 4-door sedan, yeah, that's 1 in a million chance that that will ever be created again. So to talk about some of the reliability problems this car has, there's a reason why you can pick one up for $25,000. So first of all, the transmissions, it's known that they can be a little bit jerky or just fail entirely. I will say this one has 97,000 miles on it right now, and this feels perfect to me. I do not see the transmission failing anytime soon unless it just happens suddenly, which should not be the case. Another common problem that S6s from this generation have are electrical problems, and the one we're in right now does have that. The center brake light in this car is out. Guess how much it costs to replace? $2,000, because you have to get a whole new control unit in order to fix that. Any electrical components from the early 2000s or mid 2000s are just not good. They're gonna have problems, and if you need to fix them, it's not gonna be a good day. Another common issue in this car is carbon buildup in the intake valves. That can cause performance issues and also a rough idle that usually needs to be taken care of at around 70,000 miles. But the one we're in right now, idles perfectly fine, and I don't really see any performance issues that this car has. So I believe the owner took care of that. If you do some research on this car, you'll see that people say the reliability is actually above average, generally speaking. Those are just some relatively common issues, but it's not gonna happen all the time in every single S6. So based on everything I read and what I heard from the owner, I'm gonna give this a C, and he also agreed with that rating. Now, before we get into the specifics on this category, just take a look at the car as a whole. I don't want to spoil my grade, but it's not a very attractive car. This is the undercover Lamborghini. No one would ever know what this is and how special and cool it is unless you do know. So starting off in the front, you have a grille that has a very unique square design. There's a bunch of squares inside of the grille. On that grille, you also have that nice looking S6 badge, just to let everyone know that this is not a regular A6. And this car has some pretty big and just kind of weird looking headlights. You could look at this and immediately assume it's from the early-ish 2000s. Not a huge fan of the design of the front end at all. This does have headlight washers in the front though, and this one has the headlight washer cover delete. That's gonna save a lot of, I'm just kidding. I think it just fell off or something. And I'm sorry, but literally any issues that this car has are excused. As long as this engine works, I don't care. On the side of this car, again, so bare, so undercover. Put this next to a Lamborghini Gallardo and people would think this is some old, cheap, regular 4-cylinder, I don't even know. But it does have some kind of all right looking silver wheels. You have big brakes though. Remember, those are 6-piston brakes in the front and 4 in the back, and those do look nice. If they were a different color other than black, you know, that would at least help this car kind of stand out. But do you really want this car to stand out? It's undercover for a reason. Maybe it's nice to keep it that way. And also on the side, you get that V10 badge. A V10 badge. I would pay $5,000 just for that badge. I know I'm an idiot, it's okay. But that's it. On the side of this car, there is nothing else to talk about, which is crazy. Again, cool in its own way, but I mean, I do like flashy cars, I'll tell you that. In the back of this car, you have a bigger S6 badge. That one looks nice. You also have the Audi logo on the trunk lid. You don't get a spoiler on this car, which is a bit upsetting. It's weird how Audis do not put spoilers on their cars. It would really help make the design look a lot better. And here's the second best part aside from the badges, those quad tip exhausts, and they sound amazing. We'll get on that in a second. So overall, I'm gonna have to give this exterior styling a D. It's okay if you disagree with me. You know, I just don't like it. This is not attractive to me at all. The owner gave this a B, but it's his car. We all love our own cars, so I completely understand. The moment we have all been waiting for. Let me shut up and just take a listen to this. So, it's not that loud, but it's exotic and you can hear the Lamborghini in this car. I am gonna have to grade the exhaust note as an A. I would do an S if it was a little bit louder, but the fact that that V10 just screams, I cannot get over it. And the owner of this car graded this as a B. Understandable. Again, it's not super, super loud. It's just exotic sounding. Now, this is where things start to get a little bit weird, and I'll tell you why in a second. So as soon as you open up the door on this car, it has a pretty nice door panel. You get some nice materials, a good bit of plastic. You do have a carbon fiber touch on there as well, and you get your mirror controls, seat controls, all that good stuff. All of the seats in here are entirely leather, and you get S6 right below the headrest, and that's cool. When you jump in the driver's seat of this car, you're presented with a kind of odd looking steering wheel, but it looks nice for its time. You get the Audi logo and the S6 badge on the very bottom. The gauge cluster in here, I think, is pretty nice looking, especially for 2010. It revs up to 7,000 RPM, which again is not as high as the 5.2 liter from the Lamborghini, but still, it's enough. It's so much fun to use all the power that this car has. And the speedometer goes up to 180 miles an hour, but the actual top speed of this car is 155. Which is plenty. Also, when you turn on this car, you're greeted with all the issues that your car has. You have some beeps going on, you have all these flashing lights telling you, here's $2,000 maintenance, here's $3,000, here's $5,000. So we'll talk about that in the cost of ownership section. Inside of the center console here, you have a bunch of carbon fiber, which spices it up a lot. But again, it's a car from 2010, so you have your radio buttons, your infotainment screen control. This car does have Bluetooth in the infotainment system, surprisingly enough. But it's only for calls, not for music. In this center console, you also have a start-stop button and then a separate button to stop if you don't want to press the other one. But you have a third option. This car has an ignition, so if you don't want to use those buttons, you can just put your key in there and twist it. I've never seen that in a car before. In this interior, you also have heated seats for everybody in the car. And they have 6 levels to choose from. There's a knob in the back, and then the levels you can choose from in the front seats are in this infotainment system here, which are controlled through the climate control temperature knob. It's so quirky, it's so weird. But here's something even weirder. The sunroof has like 12 levels of open. So if you want it 60% of the way open, you can do that. If you want it 75% of the way open, you can do that. So weird. And instead of having some manual control for the glove box, there's an electronic button you have to press. Those kinds of things scare me about cars like these, because if stuff like that breaks, what are you gonna do? Like, your glove box breaks, you have to pay $500? Are you kidding me? And this car even has valet mode. There's a button for that in the dash, and just so many cool, weird features. This is such an enthusiast car. It's so different from any other car that we put on this channel so far. All right, let's assign a grade to the interior. And again, it's unique and different in its own way. I'm gonna give it a B because it's so cool for the era of 2010, and it's still cool in 2024. The owner of this car also gave it a B, and that's a pretty fair rating. Now, from being in a 4,300 pound car with that smooth revving V10, very clean gear shifts from what I've experienced, heated seats, leather seats, this thing is pretty comfortable. I don't think it's just over the top though. And if we were to put this next to like a Mercedes, you know, it's good though for what it is. I'm gonna give it a B for comfort, and the owner gave this an A. Now, cost of ownership. Get ready for this. So this car is fantastic if nothing breaks, but if something breaks, you're done. For example, if anything goes wrong with the engine, just take a guess. Guess how much it is to get a new engine for this car. Up to $25,000. That's more than what this car is worth. If there's any issues with the transmission, that's up to $8,000. And to fix the center brake light, $2,000. Why? Oh, and guess the MPG for this car. The owner told me he's seen 9 miles per gallon in this car. And that is why you almost never see these cars. They are the best to have for a little bit, but then when things start going wrong and the bill is on you, you don't want it anymore. But if you have the money for this, consider this car. This is something that is just so unique, so rare, and I would put $1,000 on the fact that this will never ever be made again. Nothing like this ever again. So here is the final grade that this car gets. But at least for my grade, I don't think that's fair. Just because of how rare and cool this car is, I am bumping my grade up an entire letter grade. This is not something you ever see. It's something that when you hear it, you don't know what it is until you actually see it, and then you're like, what is that? Is that an engine swap? What is that car? Anyways, guys, that's going to wrap this up. Please help me out and increase this ratio. I think I have the lowest subscribe to unsubscribe ratio for my viewers ever. I'd really appreciate it if you hit that button. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.